Hey there everyone, so today we are here to talk Essay 1. And what is Essay 1, you might ask? Well, it's an illustration example essay. Now, just like the title suggests, we've got examples that we're working with in terms of evidence. For this essay, everything should come from your mind, okay? The evidence should all be anecdotal. It should be things that you have experienced, things that you've witnessed, observed, however you want to phrase it. And this evidence needs to come from yourself. Okay? Do not use evidence from a web page. Don't go to someone's blog and think, oh, wow, they have a really good idea. You don't want to do that. What you want to do here is take the information from your mind. And guess what? Our topics lend to that. Okay? So you should not struggle with this if you choose a topic that you know well, something that you like, something that your mind engages with. All right, so let's dig into it. What are the kind of specifications for this assignment? Well, the first thing is that it needs to be 2 pages or longer. Now, when I say 2 pages, I don't mean like 1 page and then a couple of lines on the second page. I mean 2 full pages, okay? 2 full pages. Make sure you've got content that goes all the way down to that second page. Make sure you're using MLA formatting, all right? So you want to make sure that you're following those MLA formatting requirements over the entirety of those 2 pages. Now, that'll be a little bit simpler for this essay because guess what? We don't have to worry about things like in-text citations or works cited citations. If you don't even know what those are right now, that's okay. Because guess what? We don't need them. Everything's coming from in here. All right? The only time you need in-text citations or works cited citations is when things come from elsewhere that you bring into your essay. Now, what else do we have to think about? Well, let's see. We have to have at least 2 examples per body paragraph. All right, I know I talked about this in the overview video, and that holds true for any essay that you write. Multiple examples proving the same point, okay? Just like what I said in the other video, when you have one example, if that example is a little bit weak or someone can question it, you will lose your reader, okay? The most important thing for you to keep in mind as you're writing is that you have to maintain the trust between you as a writer and your reader, which means you have to convey information in a way that they understand, they'll agree with, they see the logic if they don't agree with it, because let's face it, we're always going to read things we disagree with, but as long as they can see where you're coming from, understand why you're saying what you're saying, then you have success. Okay? So you want to make sure that you're keeping those things in mind. Now, in the same vein, you want to make sure that you tell your reader exactly what you want them to do with these examples. You can't just, throw an example down, just be like, example, and, wing it, right? Just be like, oh, they'll figure it out. It's totally logical. It makes sense. I see the connection. It's nice and easy. But guess what? Your reader can't see into your brain, right, and know exactly how you want them to use this information. You're not having a conversation with them where they can say, whoa, wait, hang tight. What do you mean, right? Why do you say that? So without having that opportunity, you have to make sure that your reader can clearly understand what you're saying and why you're saying it, and here's the kicker, how it relates back to what you are arguing. All right, so that's the basics for this essay. All right, so hopefully that makes sense and is very clear for you. Now, we have topics to choose from. Okay, now this list of topics can be found in the Essay 1 assignment requirements document. And like I said before, these topics lend to you using your own personal experiences. Later essays will use outside evidence. This one, it comes from in here, it comes from in here. All right, so these topics that we can choose from: illustrate, notice the language, illustrate, and then the next word in these topics will always be why or how, okay? Or if it's not, it'll be in there somewhere. Now, why? Because you can't just say, I really like pizza. I mean, maybe you can say that because who doesn't, right? Actually, I have a friend who doesn't like pizza. I'm considering not being friends with them anymore. But we've got these, we have to back up everything that we say with evidence, right? Why do we like pizza? Well, because it's amazing and it's greasy and cheesy and saucy. Like, oh my gosh, you can't go wrong. But we've just backed up what we've said. So, illustrate why the customer is or is not always right. What do you think about that phrase? Do you feel like they're right? Do you feel like they can be wrong? Do you feel like they're always right, sometimes right, never right? There's not one answer here, okay? So take a stand and make sure that you argue your position clearly. If your position lies somewhere in the middle, right? Customers are sometimes right. Okay, cool. But also I agree with you. But the thing is that you need to choose one side or the other and then adjust it to kind of explain what you're thinking. If you want to say that sometimes the customer is always right, you can say the customer is always right in situations that are vague, but in written store policy, the customer may not be right if they want to deviate from that policy, right? So you kind of say what, generally you make a stand and then specify, well, how do you mean that, okay? So you want to make sure that you do that no matter which topic you choose. But I wanted to kind of put that out there for that first one. All right, so illustrate how the internet divides or does not divide people. That's a good topic. Now, I would say if you choose this, internet, that's huge. What's on the internet? Well, there's social media, there's blogs, there's web pages, there is videos, there's, gosh, the list just goes on and on and on and on. Choose what you're talking about. You have to narrow your topic down, okay? So, if you want to talk about how the internet divides people, not necessarily the position that I agree with, but that's okay, because technically you can argue anything. But we say, okay, so the internet, what do I mean by the internet? Do I mean in a chat room? Do I mean in social media? I think I mean social media, right? And then you say, okay, we're going to change what I'm trying to say here. So the internet doesn't divide people, social media divides people, or better yet, the way people use social media divides people. It's a little repetitive. Play with the language, you'll find the right texture for it, I guess. All right, so the next one, what makes a good or a bad job interview? Okay, so that works. Right, you know what it's like. You've most likely been on a job interview. You know how you prepare. You know how not to prepare. So whether you decide to argue about a good interview or a bad interview, that's up to you, right? But you just need to justify it. All right, so illustrate one of your favorite hobbies and why you like it. This one, so cool, because you can pick whatever you want. I've seen essays written about video games, hiking, backpacking, which I didn't know was different from hiking, fishing. A lot of people loved outdoor things. We've got all these different opportunities just on things that you like. Cooking is another one, right? Choose a hobby and roll with it. The next one, illustrate what it's like to go out to eat at your favorite restaurant. Now, this isn't taking a position necessarily, but it's definitely something that you can explain. Notice that illustrate why. You have to unpack it. All right, so we have two more topics. The first one, illustrate that friends are or are not people you can always trust. Now, I would say we need to narrow this further again, right? What kind of friends? Are these best friends? Are these more like acquaintances? Like, should you not trust people until you know them? I mean, that seems like a good plan, right? But you want to narrow it further, because I know in my life, I have an array of friends. Is it someone who I know, I've known forever, right? Is it someone I've known for 5 years, 1 year, 6 months, 2 weeks, right? And how does that work, okay? But the same thing, why? Why can you trust them? Why can't you? And you choose one group of that type of friend. You should always be able to trust your best friend. If that's your position, why? Why should you always be able to trust your best friend? And then talk about that. All right, now when it comes to this last one, illustrate that lying may be or may not be justified by the circumstances. This is another one we have to narrow. What is lying? Okay, is it a little white lie? Is it like a big lie? Is that ever justified? Who knows, right? It's up to the individual. Do you feel like, what about a lie that saves your life or protects your family or protects your friends, right? Are those lies okay? Whereas something that is just purely for personal gain, you have to think, okay, well, what kind of lie do I want to talk about? And what kind of circumstance do I want to talk about? Those are the types of topics that you can choose from for this essay. And as you can see, these are all things that you interact with on a regular basis. So don't use any of those outside sources. Don't even look at them. All right. So that sets up the basics. So keep an eye out on Blackboard for more videos that discuss the more specifics. How to format evidence in your essay. What kind of organization do you want to have, right? How do I make a thesis statement? It's a great question. We have an answer. All right, so have a great rest of your day. Do great things, and I will see you next time.